Dzień dobry. My name is Joanne Siddons, CEO of Synthetron, and I'm honored to be able to share with you some of our experience on crowdsourcing dialogues or Synthetron discussions. Um, I just wanted to just start with you to say, well, why are we having more and more success and are people often coming more often to us? It's basically because we are in this extremely fast changing environment. It's volatile, uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous, it's all kind of things, and it's actually extremely important to keep the finger on the pulse and understand if your employees are able to come along and what their abilities are. But that's not the only thing. The other thing is actually in that environment you need to have capture all the knowledge there is, and the knowledge is no longer concentrated in the management layer. It's actually widespread, and it's not about knowledge anymore. It's about knowledge and experience and insights. It's about wisdom that counts, and wisdom is at the top, is available there, sometimes very visible. You know who's wise. It can be very dispersed. It can be unexpectedly in different pockets. Sometimes, and quite often, it's not visible. And when it comes down to values or visions or it actually is very deeply rooted, and you need to create a quite safe environment for it to come up. So let me share some cases so that you get a bit of feeling of what we're doing and what has been working extremely well, where crowdsourcing is of extreme added value. One case is IKEA. They introduced a new scheduling system, worked fine technically, but they didn't know whether it was really achieving the objectives they had and the values that there were actually behind it. So they had these sessions with the shop floor people, very operational, asking them how the scheduling was going, whether they felt that the values were adhered to, whether the principles were adhered to, what they saw as actually still maybe lacks in it and what could be improved. They did it, they got their instant insight on what they could do. The project team picked it up, started changing things. A year later, again, listening to everyone and saying, how are we doing now? Typically, very operationally helping the sector. This case is a very different case. A telephone company, a telephone operator, from very smart marketeers, engineers to people digging in the ground. So what's the value proposition? Asking people the different segments and asking them, say, well, what makes you proud to come to work? What gets you out of bed in the morning? When your neighbor asks you to say, well, my daughter wants to come work with you, what would you say? What are you actually less proud about? Imagine it's the ideal company in the future. How will it look like? All kind of questions that actually help to untangle and understand what is the fundamental value proposition perceived today and what is actually the aspiration. Now, getting from that different inputs, knowing what is actually common and different, it allowed them to have a specific value proposition per group and a global one, which helped them reduce retention or increase retention significantly because they were recruiting better and training as well was improved. Totally different case, employee engagement. Van der Velde lingerie company worldwide, they did a survey and they had numbers. And so what? You have numbers, you know you're 64, you're 78, or you're 93, but what does it mean? They were puzzled and they had then discussions with us set up for every single team. We call this EE Plus. It's a kind of a replacement of engagement surveys. Team per team, it's a dialogue, very simple. What's going well and what should we keep on doing? What is going less well and would you like to see changed? You say that this is going less well, tell me more about it. And so, what is the root cause? What can we do? What are the solutions that you suggest and what can you maybe do yourself? This is another thing that you say is going less well, so, and there you go. At the end of every discussion, every team manager has his output with the top lines of what are the positive engagers he needs to manage and keep. what are the problems he needs to address, and what are the solutions that the people suggest themselves. So very operational, but not only that, very actionable, I would say. But not only that, it's also that if you bring all this data together, you can build a heat map and you can really very quickly see what are systemic issues that actually at the corporate level needs to be addressed, or systemic levers that need to be maintained, and what are specific ones for different departments, and where it's maybe a bit more red and where it's more green, and it needs less management attention. Finally, we'll go very quickly over it. This is a case of an HR policy, diversity and inclusion, asking the different parts of the organization, the different languages, how you're doing and what could be progress. It really helped them to build the plan. A bank, like any bank, in full change, reorganizing the bottleneck, whatever, big change, keeping the finger on the pulse on progress was extremely important for them. So they, on a very regular basis, listen not to the n minus 2 or n minus 3, no, to actually 4 and 5 or minus 3 maybe even, but really the branch people, the people out there in the field, it's like, how is it going? Are they aligned? Are they engaged? Are the processes in line? Is the heart, the head, the hands, is everything actually in line and working? And what can be done to help change faster, better? The last one, RWE, German electricity company, totally different, strange in environment, nuclear stopped. So from very operational implementation, we're here now at the highest strategic level. They had to develop a vision of what are they going to be in the future. They had three possible options to become A, B, or C. And so at a certain moment, they said, let's listen to the top thousands and find out what they are thinking. And so the discussion was in 1 hour and 20 minutes. Let's talk about Vision A, how you look at it. What is actually attractive about Vision A? What are the risks associated with it? How feasible is it that we get there? What are the key success factors to go there? Vision B, Vision C, Option B, Option C, or Vision C and C. And then finally, which one do you choose? Which one do you prefer and why? Now, that outcome was an extremely valuable input for the management team because it gave them really new insights and that allowed them also to realize that if they would decide for one or the other, what are the arguments they had to overcome and compensate for. So I talked to you about very briefly cases in strategy change, policies, culture, and employee engagement. We lately do a lot of this employee engagement because there's a real fatigue in surveys and considering people as objects that you measure instead of considering people as subjects that actually matter and are able to co-create solutions. I will not dwell on the philosophy, but do realize that when you do a Synthetron discussion, you have to really think about what is it that I want to get out of it. Is it feedback or is it co-creation? What kind of journey am I bringing these participants in? Do I want them to reflect? Do I want them to be engaging? What is actually the most important thing? And what actually do I want to get out of it? So it's an art, and over a decade, we've built the knowledge and the capacity to really help our clients. You first of all have to know why you're doing it. You have to make the right choices. You have to really listen. Know that it's an intervention. After 1 hour of talking about engagement, what's going well and not well, you expect people are waking up and they expect change. So you need to react to it. It is, however, not a decision-making tool. And it's very important to manage that expectation, but I think it's very important that you also realize that. And so, in a very short time, I hope I've given you some insights on why managers are using crowdsourcing dialogues and how they're using it. It mainly is to find answers to important questions. And there's an incredible wisdom out there. There's an incredible information to tap into and is an incredible co-creative capacity to help build the future. I now just have to wish you a very good next full day of conference and hope that this actually gives you some good insights. Thank you for listening. Joanne Sellens from Brussels, Synthetron.